This is the head of a central bank telling us food rationing is coming. That is nothing short of extremely concerning. They do not make these statements for no reason, and no doubt they'll have some sort of solution to this crisis already planned out that spells more control. Perhaps it could look like, eventually, government bread lines where your qualification for receiving your handful of grain may require a digital ID, for example.
So we're going to be taking a look at this clip from the Vigilant Fox. Global elites are now warning of food rationing as governments around the world quietly prepare for worst-case shortages tied to the Iran conflict. So this account, the Vigilant Fox, 1.9 million followers on X, is run by, I believe her name is Maria. Great account to follow. If you are on X, I highly recommend that you follow both of these accounts. So this is Maria's personal account, ZeeeMediaOfficial. You can see there at ZeeeMedia. And then the other big account is this account, the Vigilant Fox. Highly recommend that you follow both of these accounts on X. Excellent information that you will not get from the mainstream media. I have two related posts from Maria at the end of the video, so stick around for that. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's take a listen.
Good evening, our fellow panicans and people who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Well, the warnings that people who have the nerve to tell you the truth for months have been giving are coming to fruition. We now have warnings from the self-proclaimed elites that the global population needs to start preparing for food rationing. So yes, there are going to be massive disruptions to the globe, as we have been telling you for months now. This is absolutely the beginnings of the Great Reset, the plan to confine us into our 15-minute locations, make it near impossible for us to afford absolutely anything. And now we're being told, hey, food is going to be difficult for you to obtain. Therefore, you need to prepare for food rationing. Here is a message from Christine Lagarde, the chief of the European Central Bank, telling all of the people these people view as peasants that they need to prepare for food rationing. Take a listen.
A third of the fertilizers is shipped through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that is also at risk. And it matters particularly in the southern hemisphere, where the planting and therefore the fertilizers is badly needed now. I'm not saying that just out of interest for agriculture. Don't forget, I was Minister of Agriculture in France for a month and a half. But because it matters to me as a central banker now. Because if the price of food increases significantly, it is not going to just be the price of food, it is going to be inflation expectations. Because we know that people are particularly attentive to two things: the price of food, processed and unprocessed, and the price of gas at the petrol station. So here are three indirect consequences of what's happening in the energy world. So if the disruption persists long enough, the adjustment shifts from prices, which we are putting up with now, to possibly rationing, with very different economic consequences. Higher prices are primarily inflationary. Shortages hit output directly and are worse for growth.
But in case you think this is isolated to some third world country in Eastern Europe, no, the UK has been told to prepare for World War II style food rationing by a government advisor. It says the UK has been told to prepare for World War II style food rationing. Tim Lang, Professor of Food Policy at the University of London, who's been a member of several government bodies, including the UK Council of Food Policy Advisors, has spoken out. Mr. Lang told The Sun that the UK has next to no food storage and said if the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz carries on, the UK's food supply chain will quietly seize up and there will have to be choices made by government, by retailers, and by food manufacturers. He added, rationing is an extreme option. We had to do it in World War II. I think we should be preparing for that and we should be thinking about it. We haven't done it for 70 years. And in case you think this is just one government advisor saying these things, no. Leaked government plans show that multiple government departments in the UK are actually preparing for food shortages. This is from ITV. It says government reportedly drawing up worst case scenario plans for food shortages. The UK is drawing up plans to prepare for worst case scenario food shortages should the Iran war continue into the summer, and many are expecting this to be a very long-lasting war. A leak of government plans seen by The Times shows senior officials from multiple government departments have been examining the potential impact on British industry should the Strait of Hormuz remain closed. Though the war is not likely to lead to critical shortages, a reasonable worst-case scenario from leaked government plans suggests there could be less variety on supermarket shelves should fighting continue. In true mainstream media fashion, they are saying this is not likely. Of course, ITV is a major broadcaster in the UK, so the government is definitely interested in keeping people's fears low, because if people understood the true impacts that this war is going to have around the world, there would be outrage in every single country right now. But it's not just the UK government, and it's not just the European Central Bank. We have the World Food Programme projecting food insecurity could reach record levels as a result of Middle East escalation. This is from March. They say that roughly 45 million more people could be pushed into acute hunger if this year if conflict persists. They say that global numbers of food insecure people could reach levels last seen at the start of the Ukraine war. We think it'll be much more than that. And import-dependent countries in Africa and Asia are most at risk of increased hunger, rather. It goes on to say that the World Food Programme is warning that the total number of people around the world facing acute levels of hunger could reach record numbers in 2026 if the escalation in the Middle East continues to destabilize the world's economy. And then, of course, we also have the Food and Agriculture Organization, a UN agency, warning the Strait of Hormuz crisis could take months to stabilize costs. In fact, they say disruption to the global commodity flows could persist even if the US-Israeli war on Iran ends now. So they are saying that regardless, even if it ended today, we are going to see disruption to food and agriculture. And of course, Christine Lagarde is saying that we definitely need to start preparing for food shortages as a result of all of this. And here's an article about the Food and Agriculture Organization chief economist warning of severe global food security risks from disruption to Strait of Hormuz trade corridor. This is the chief economist of the FAO of the United Nations, Maximo Torero, warned that the ongoing disruption to the Strait of Hormuz trade corridor is triggering one of the most severe shocks to global commodity flows in recent years, with significant implications for food security, agricultural production, and global markets. Now, whether you think this is a manufactured situation or not, it seems at this point the outcome is inevitable. Make no mistake about it, when you have this many statements about food shortages and now rationing, and again, this is the head of a central bank telling us food rationing is coming, that is nothing short of extremely concerning. They do not make these statements for no reason, and no doubt they'll have some sort of solution to this crisis already planned out that spells more control. Perhaps it could look like, eventually, government bread lines, where your qualification for receiving your handful of grain may require a digital ID, for example. Would you be considered essential to qualify for these so-called rations that they're so generously handing out to the plebeians? I wonder if the heads of these central banks will be on rations. We all know the answer to that. And we don't claim to know exactly how this will play out, but we do know about the many published documents, reports, and white papers detailing the plan to limit the population's calorie intake, as well as the types of food people will be allowed to consume under this new system. Thus, this crisis is creating the perfect storm for these lab-grown meat-growing psychopaths. What we also know and believe wholeheartedly is that the more self-sufficient that people can become in this time, the less likely they will be willing to comply with whatever strings are attached to the rations. Grow your own food. If possible, have some animals. Stock up. They're not just telling you it's coming, they're actively preparing for it and have been for some time.
So let me know your thoughts on everything that Maria shared with us there. And look, of course, we cannot say for sure that this is going to end up being the worst case scenario, but this is very real, and it is a very real scenario that can happen the longer this drags out. And just related to this, now I must be clear, we can't say for sure that this being set up right now is being done with bad intentions right now, but it's entirely possible that these systems that we're seeing being set up will be easy to tap into when all of this plays out with the Antichrist, the Tribulation, the beast system, etc. All right, so let's read here. Palantir now has a $300 million deal with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which will use the software company's technology to, quote, manage farmland as geopolitical risks threaten global supply chains. It won't be long before your only option is gene-edited food. Grow your own. And one more post here from Maria. Once the food shortages / rationing hit the broader world population, including the West, they will propose lab-grown foods as the solution to the food crisis. Your access to it will depend on digital ID and compliance with their mandates of various kinds. Start growing food now. And look, the purpose of this video from my side is not to put you into a state of panic or fear or things like that. It is always best to be prepared for the worst. We all know this, especially if you are a believer and a Christian and you know what's coming. It makes complete sense to, not overdo it, but be prepared for the worst. Be prepared for what we know is coming. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video from the Vigilant Fox and Maria. Highly recommend that you follow both of those profiles on X. You will get excellent information there that you will not get from the mainstream media. Highly recommend that you follow them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I will chat to you later.